If you are the driver or owner of a vehicle which is in a crash that is your fault and you do not have insurance to comply with the financial responsibility law, you A. may be required to pay for the damage before your driving privilege is reinstated. B. may be sent to jail. C. can be fined up to $1,000 or jail up to 60 days. Or D. must purchase a policy with a minimum coverage of $50,000 within 60 days. Correct answer is A. may be required to pay for the damage before your driving privilege is reinstated. Parking is allowed A. within intersections, B. on public roads, C. within 15 feet of a fire hydrant, or D. on crosswalks. Correct answer is B. on public roads. Which of the following is not defensive driving? A. thinking ahead, B. looking for possible danger, C. acting right away to prevent a crash, or D. smiling to other drivers. Correct answer would be D. smiling to other drivers. Driving 16 miles per hour or more over lawful or posted speed will result in points being added. A. 3, B. 5, C. 4, or D. 2. Correct answer would be C. 4. What does this DIP sign indicate? A. There is a drive-in parking ahead. B. downgrade ahead. Drivers should go slowly. C. there is a low place in the road. Or D. police department ahead. Correct answer is C. There is a low place in the road. On a highway, you're moving in the opposite direction of a stopped school bus which is picking up or dropping off children. You, A. must stop if the bus stop arm is withdrawn. B. can pass the bus. C. do not have to stop if the highway is divided by a raised barrier or an unpaved median at least 5 feet wide. Or D. must always stop. C would be the correct answer. Do not have to stop if the highway is divided by a raised barrier or an unpaved median at least 5 feet wide. Which of the following is true? Your license will be suspended. A. if you park next to a fire hydrant. B. if you commit retail theft. C. if you're found guilty of racing on a highway. Or D. all of the above. Correct answer would be B. if you commit retail theft. A driver is approaching a highway railroad crossing and is following a bus. The driver should A. overtake and pass the bus before reaching the crossing. B. be alert that the bus may have stopped at the crossing even when the gates are up. C. pass the bus and come to a complete stop within 15 feet of the crossing. Or D. none of the above. Correct answer is B. be alert as the bus may have to stop at the crossing even when the gates are up. When drivers see this road sign, A. they must treat it as a four-way stop sign. B. they must come to a complete stop and call the police. C. they must not drive past the sign. Or D. they must turn around immediately. Correct answer would be D. they must turn around immediately. Which line on a pavement permits the passing of other vehicles? A. solid white line. B. solid yellow line. C. broken yellow line. Or D. broken white line. Correct answer is D. broken white line. To reduce their chances of colliding with an animal, drivers should A. slow down when approaching animals that are standing near the road. B. look well down the road and far off to each side. C. scan the sides of the road to watch for the reflection of vehicle headlights in the eyes of the animals. Or D. all of the above. In this case, the correct answer would be all of the above. D. Which of the following is true when crossing a railroad track? A. in heavy traffic, make sure that there is room for their vehicle on the other side before crossing. B. do not move forward until it's safe to do so. C. if there is more than one track, make sure all tracks are clear before starting to cross. Or D. all of the above. C is the correct answer. If there is more than one track, make sure all tracks are clear before starting to cross. Parking is not allowed within feet of a railroad crossing. A. 80, B, 100, C, 50, or D, 40? Correct answer is C, 50. Carpool vehicles are those with A, 2 or more occupants in the car, B, anti-hydroplaning tires, C, 3 or more occupants in the car, or D, less than 4 occupants in the car. Correct answer is A, 2 or more occupants in the car. If traffic signals are out of order, drivers must A, treat the light as if it's a four-way stop sign, B, treat the light as if it's a green light, C, treat the light as if it's a yellow light, or D, stop if they can. Correct answer would be A, treat the light as if it is a four-way stop sign. What does the flashing signal in the picture indicate? A, pedestrians should finish crossing the street if started. B, pedestrians should start crossing the street. C, pedestrians should stop walking immediately, or D, the same thing as a stop sign. Correct answer A, pedestrians should finish crossing the street if started. When a school bus stops to unload children on a divided highway, should the vehicles traveling in the same direction as the bus stop? A, yes, if you are in a school zone. B, no, only vehicles traveling in the opposite direction have to stop. C, stopping is optional in this specific case. Or D, yes, always. Correct answer is D, yes, always. Your red traffic signal changes to green while a pedestrian is crossing in your traffic lane. The right of way should be given A, to the pedestrian, B, by the pedestrian, but only when vehicles are turning left, C, by the pedestrian, or D, to you. Correct answer is A, to the pedestrian. The financial responsibility law requires drivers to A, pay $15 of property damage liability, PDL, B, pay their car insurance, C, be financially responsible for damages they may cause to others when a motor vehicle crash happens, or D, share the financial risk of road crashes with the other drivers. Correct answer is C, be financially responsible for damages they may cause to others when a motor vehicle crash happens. Drivers should keep a minimum following distance of A, 1 second with an additional second when approaching an intersection, B, 55 milliseconds with an additional millisecond for every drop of rain in a 2 miles radius, C, 1 to 2 seconds with an additional second for any vehicle in front of them, or D, 3 to 4 seconds with an additional second for any unusual weather or traffic conditions. Correct answer is D, 3 to 4 seconds with an additional second for any unusual weather or traffic conditions. Which of the following is not true before you start your engine? You should A, make sure your safety belt is clean. B, make sure your car is in park or neutral gear. C, adjust the inside and outside rear view mirrors. Or D, adjust the seat so you can reach all controls. Correct answer is A, make sure your safety belt is clean. Parking is not allowed within feet of any flashing signal, stop signal, or traffic signal. A, 15 feet, B, 30 feet, C, 40 feet, or D, 25 feet. Correct answer is B, 30 feet. The picture shows A, roundabout, B, an open intersection, C, a crossing, or D, a divided highway. Correct answer is A, roundabout. Before pulling out from a right side parallel parking space, drivers must A, enter the traffic flow and then give a left turn signal. B, make sure no law enforcement officer is directing traffic. C, check for approaching traffic to give a left turn signal. Or D, none of the above. Correct answer is C, checking for approaching traffic and give a left turn signal. Passing is allowed A, on 2-lane highways, B, at intersections, C, on hills, or D, none of the above. Correct answer is A, on two-lane highways. If you want to go to a social event where you might drink alcohol, you should A, arrange to remain overnight or ride home with a friend who does not drink. B, use public transportation or a taxi if available. C, arrange to go with or two more people and agree that one of them will not drink alcohol. Or D, all of the above. Obviously, it's D, all of the above. On slippery roads, drivers would A, come to a complete stop. B, leave more space in front of their vehicle. C, reduce the reaction distance. Or D, increase their speed to avoid hydroplaning. Correct answer would be B, leave more space in front of their vehicle. Any driver under the age of 18 who accumulates 6 or more points within a 12-month period is automatically restricted for 1 year to A, driving for business purposes only. B, operating the motor vehicle only between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. C, driving only during weekends. Or D, driving within 25 miles from home. Correct answer would be A, driving for business purposes only. A bicyclist on the road ahead has their left arm extended downward to their left. You should assume the bicyclist is signaling that he or she is A, slowing down or stopping. B, turning left. C, tired. Or D, about to turn right. Correct answer would be A, slowing down or stopping. Which of the following is not true? When you enter an open intersection, you must yield the right of way if the traffic light is red. A, you plan to make a left turn and a vehicle is approaching from the opposite direction. B, the traffic light is red. C, a vehicle is already in the intersection. Or D, all of the above. Correct answer would be B, the traffic light is red. When they see this sign, drivers should A, be ready to brake sharply and stop. B, yield to trucks coming from the hill on the right. C, do not downshift. And D, be ready to shift to lower gear. Correct answer would be D, be ready to shift to lower gear. A large percentage of motorists' bicycle crashes occur A, on interstate highways. B, on sidewalks. C, at intersections. Or D, because there are too many bicyclists. Correct answer is C, at intersections. Passengers under the age of 18, A, must always be restrained by a safety belt or child restraint device. B, do not have to be restrained by a safety belt or a child restraint device. C, must be restrained by a safety belt or child restraint device when sitting in front. Or D, often have to be restrained by a safety seat or a child restraint device. Correct answer would be A, must always be restrained by a safety belt or child restraint device. At 50 miles per hour, a vehicle will travel a minimum of feet before the driver can bring it to a complete stop. A, 120 feet. B, 240 feet. C, 268 feet. Or D, 185 feet. Correct answer is C, 268 feet. An 8-lane highway has pedestrian countdown period, a 4-lane road. A longer than. B, half the of. C, the same as. D, a shorter than. Correct answer is A longer than. Unlawful speed resulting in a crash will result in points being added. A, 2 points. B, 4 points. C, 6 points. Or D, 3 points. Correct answer is C, 6 points. A, marks the right edge of the roadway. A. Broken line, B. Solid white line, C. Solid yellow line, or D. Broken white line? Correct answer is B. Solid white line marks. A second refusal to take a blood or breath test will result in A. A 12-month suspension and a second-degree misdemeanor, B. An 18-month suspension and a first-degree misdemeanor, C. A fine of $1,500, or D. A fine of $1,000. Correct answer is B. An 18-month suspension and a first-degree misdemeanor. What is the meaning of red traffic signs? A. A high-emphasis warning, B. Regulatory, C. School ahead, or D. Stop, do not enter, or wrong way? Correct answer is D. Stop, do not enter, or wrong way. Your license must be revoked if you A. Fail to carry insurance on your vehicle, B. You refuse to take a DUI test, C. Are found guilty of 15 offenses of which you receive points within a 5-year period, or D. Fail to stop for a school bus. Correct answer is C. Are found guilty of 15 offenses for which you receive 5 points within a 5-year period. You should use a 3-point turn, A. On a hill if the road is clear, B. On a curve to turn your car around in a very small space, C. When you miss an exit on a highway, or D. Only if the road is too narrow for a U-turn and you can't go around the block. Correct answer is D. Only if the road is too narrow for a U-turn and you can't go around the block. Which of the following must be avoided when passing another vehicle? A. Returning to the right side of the road immediately after passing the other vehicle. B. On a 2-lane road, blinking your headlights to let the other driver know you're passing. C. Returning to the right side of the road immediately after passing the other vehicle. Or D. Giving your signal before you move into the left lane. Correct answer is A. Returning to the right side of the road immediately after passing another vehicle. Passing a stopped school bus will result in points being added. A. 3 points, B. 5 points, C. 2 points, or D. 4 points. Correct answer is D. 4 points. When following a motorcycle, drivers must remember that motorcycles can than other vehicles. A. Stop much more quickly, B. Drive much faster, C. Accelerate much faster, and D. Stop much more slowly. Correct answer is A. Stop much more quickly. Doing all you can to prevent crashes is called A. Boring driving, B. Crash prevention driving, C. Defensive driving, or D. Anti-collision driving. Correct answer is C. Defensive driving. A driver needing to turn a car around in a very small space should A. Make a U-turn if possible, B. Use a 3-point U-turn on a curve, C. Always use a 3-point turn, or D. Drive to the next roundabout. Correct answer is A. Make a U-turn if possible. When the light is red, drivers A. Must come to a complete stop before moving into the intersection, B. Must stop after entering the intersection, C. Can go, but only if the intersection is clear, or D. Must yield to oncoming traffic and pedestrians. Correct answer would be A. Must come to a complete stop before moving into the intersection. Roads are most slippery. A. When it stops raining, B. When it first starts to rain, C. On hills, or D. Just before it rains. Correct answer would be B, when it first starts to rain. When you see a cyclist approaching at night, you should not A. Be careful. B. Avoid honking your horn. C. Use low beam headlights. Or D. Use high beam headlights. Correct answer is D. Use high beam headlights.